Good evening. Welcome to the Spiritual But Not Religious Show. I'm your host, George Lewis. I've got a great show lined up for you tonight. I've got two co-authors of a book called The Genesis Code. Going to be a really interesting conversation with a couple of really interesting people. Before I bring our guests on, I want to talk with you a bit about the website and what we have to offer here. We've got several new shows. If you check up there on the menu for our show calendar, you'll find several new shows. Also, we have, probably 300 hours of documentaries, spiritual documentaries, films, and videos. Spend some time, look around, and come back next week and check out some of our new shows. Matter of fact, we've got one show coming up where we've got a spiritual comedian, and her husband is a psychic, and should be very, very interesting. It's called Shift Happens. We've got several others you want to be sure and take a look at. My guests tonight are Abraham Lopian and Julie Snyder. They are authors of The Genesis Code. And Tom, we got Abraham and Julie on the line.
We do.
Good evening, Abraham, Julie.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hi there. You able to hear me all right?
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
Great. Well,
I can't see you.
Yeah, well, guess what? I can't see you either. So we're just, both of us in the dark here. We'll just feel our way through all this. I think we'll come out just fine. You know, I'll tell you, the book that you put together here is particularly interesting. The thing about the title, you know, my audience really has a kind of an aversion to words like Bible and Genesis and anything that has to do with that kind of realm. So what I thought we'd do tonight is really answer some questions and set the stage for a second show where we'll get deeper into what we've got. But there's some questions that I really would like to hear, you know, how you answer also. So they're going to be tough questions, but I think we'll have a good time with it. So welcome.
Okay, great.
Welcome. So
thank you very much.
You know, one of the things I want to recognize is that you know, the years, and I know it's not months, it's years of research. This didn't happen in a 90-day period. You've got a lot of effort, a lot of work that the two of you put into the writing of this book. It's well written, intellectual, but at the same time, an easy read. I mean, you've done a really nice job with it. So,
Judy did a fantastic job.
Julie, that's your forte. Then you did a great job, really good job.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first question, I guess, is for Abraham. Well, let me rephrase that. In the co-authoring of this book, was it both of your ideas to write this book, or did one of you have the idea and the other is supportive in that?
Well,
told you I was going to ask some tough questions.
It was basically Julie's idea that we should write a book because what happened was that we had somebody who came to us who wanted to put us on TV, and he had professional cameras and everything, and we wrote the script. This was years ago, and towards the end, he said that he wanted us to talk about how could people make money manifesting. Well, this is absolutely what we're not about.
Right? Yeah. No, not at all. Are you?
Right. So we dropped it. And then Judy says, well, instead of the script, let's work on a book, which took us 10 years.
Yes.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into.
You know, we get into anything that's, you know, like really, you know, like deeply a part of our purpose. We often don't know what we've gotten into. So why did you write the book? What was your, I know it's not the money part of it. Why did you write this book? What you know, what were you really after in writing the book?
What we were really after is to bring what we know, and I know your audience has an aversion to the Old Testament and religion, and as you said, Genesis, but it's been mistranslated, and it has never been understood. So we wanted to bring this enlightenment to the world.
Well, you know, I spent. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Julie.
Oh, well, you know, when I met Abraham, I knew that he had knowledge that I had never heard and the world hadn't heard. And I knew that I had to help him get that knowledge out there because it's phenomenal knowledge. Now, I have never been a part of any religious group. I mean, I'm Jewish. I went to a private Christian school, but religion is not who I am, and it's not who I was.
Right.
And this knowledge, the code, is a metaphysical journey into the depths of creation and into the depths of man. And it's truly unique. It's phenomenal wisdom, and I knew I had to morph into a writer. I'd never taken a writing class, and I knew I had to become a great writer, or at least do the very best that I could to get this knowledge out in the world.
Well, you've done a good job with that. I have some experience myself. I wrote a book, and then I did what you did only afterwards. I went, back to college and took all the writing courses they had in order to rewrite it. So I really understand how much heart can go into, the kind of work you've done here. So when you talk about the code, are we talking about the same kind of code that has gotten so much publicity in the past with documentaries, the Bible code?
Absolutely not.
Okay. I want to get that very clear for our audience that it is not the Bible code. So one of the things you say is early in the book is there's no doubt the Torah is an inspired doctrine of revelation. So how do we know that? I mean, is that not conjecture on the reader's part?
Well, it could be conjecture, like any book or any artwork that people admire. It's always the audience that either respects it or feels it boring. This book has been around for 3,500 years.
Yes.
70% of Americans are Christians, so they believe in the Bible in some way. It's been around even in its format. Now, I know people say this is a religious book, but in truth it's not. But it's been mistranslated, misunderstood, and used for, I think, purposes which are not really spiritual.
And the code came before the rise of religion. The code, this all goes back. What our first book is about is the giving of the Lucas, the first tablets of Sinai. Now, most people think that, first of all, most people aren't even aware of the first tablets. But you hear time and time again that the Ten Commandments were written by the finger of God, and that is what our world knows. The code is directly related to the first set of tablets that were actually written by the finger of God and brought down Sinai. And those tablets were broken, and that consciousness was never absorbed into mankind. So,
well, when you talk about those tablets, who's attributed to bringing those tablets down the mountain? Is that Moses?
Yes, Moses brought them down.
Right.
But mankind could not accept that level of enlightenment.
Which is what most of your audience is either involved in within themselves or seeking to find. This is a very metaphysical, advanced level.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, the Ten Commandments, yes, they're beautiful, but, when you look at
the lower level.
Right, it's a lower level of consciousness. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. That is what the consciousness of man needed 3,500 years ago. They weren't able to absorb the level of the first tablet.
Well, let's talk about the Ten Commandments for just a bit. And Moses brought us the Ten Commandments and the Torah, correct? Or the tablets?
The Torah is how man on that level should live, because his understanding was limited.
Okay. Well, here's one thing with Moses. Moses, one of the things he says in the Ten Commandments, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So, are we talking a metaphor there?
Metaphor.
Okay, because if we're not talking metaphor, we're talking about chosen people.
No.
Because not all of us were in bondage out of the land of Egypt.
Well, we all are in bondage in a matrix.
Boy, that's for sure. So
the metaphor of Egypt is not really Egypt. It's in Hebrew, it's Mitzrayim, which actually means narrow consciousness in the code. In other words, the idea of a matrix is control and enslavement.
And is that control and enslavement because of our own misunderstandings, or is there?
Our own. Sorry.
No, that's it. Is it? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, if we look at our world today, we're really in the same type of matrix.
Absolutely.
We are controlled by the few, and we're becoming enslaved to those few.
Right.
It's a metaphor.
Yes. Well, I'm with you there.
And the Genesis Code in our book goes into the matrix and it explains what the matrix is, how it's powered by human consciousness, and how it influences society. And until enough of the people come together, the matrix isn't going to change.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, it's going to keep on its destructive path. And our belief systems, through religion, which is what the majority of the world is following, condones and idolizes a God that is outside of us.
Right.
And, I'm very connected. Abraham's very connected. I mean, it comes through the I am. And that's what the people need to understand, those that are following religion, that, God is not outside of us. There isn't something or somebody that we're supposed to worship to get to God. We are it. We are facets of the I am.
Well, if they paid attention to the New Testament and what Jesus was trying to tell them, he says that very specifically.
Right.
Jesus was very well, he's been, turned into something that...
He's been enlightened, but again, mistranslated and misunderstood.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So here, I have another question here before we move forward with this. It's the thing about this, like the Torah or any other book that's been that's really come through as the Word of God, is why would God knowing this creation, is the God we're talking about anthropomorphic in your mind?
Well, it's a good question. If any creator created us, therefore we have to be in an aspect of itself, otherwise it couldn't create us.
Exactly.
So we are an aspect of the Creator. It doesn't mean the Creator hasn't got other creations, which we know nothing about, but part of us is part of the Creator. Otherwise you can't create anything that's not in itself.
Right.
Well, we're a projection.
Each one of us is a facet of the Creator.
Okay, so let's take that for a moment, with that being the reality. And what we have here is one book given to one man for more than just the man in the group, but it came through that one man in that group. And the Creator must have known that the Egyptians were there. There were, during this time, there were lots of other groups. Why would a Creator only rely on, like one group of people bringing this word through rather than bringing through two or three?
I'm sure that if you go through it, probably the Creator did try to bring it through, but if you have a mass consciousness that accepts a revelation of, like we have a mass consciousness of science, of our understanding,
right,
it creates a level of understanding that can be implemented through the mass consciousness. A single person doesn't have the power to break the matrix.
Well, yeah, without question. Just the idea of being able to convince enough people that there is a matrix is going to be a problem. Is going to be problematic right out front. I mean, we see that all the time.
And it's not explained. It's very difficult to find information on it and how it really operates. And also important, Moses, he, and the book explains this, he went through many matrices of consciousness. And he was really a spiritual being that came. And what I want the people to understand is what happened to Moses, and this is a completely different level of understanding surrounding Moses in the book. What happened to Moses and his life and his journey is possible for each and every one of us. But before, you need a guide. You need a guide to help you understand the reality that we exist in and through, and to know, what is the purpose? Why is man here? Why did this happen to Moses? Why didn't it happen to somebody else? And your audience, there's so many that are seeking and searching and climbing their own mountains, climbing their own Sinais, and all of that is coded, and it directly relates to each and every one of us today. The code truly is the guiding light to elevating your consciousness to become what Adam was intended to become. I mean, we are Adam, each and every one of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us, if you will, what was Moses' experience that you're talking about? I mean, what was it that he went through?
Okay, let us start from the fact that he was born into death.
Yes.
Because the Pharaoh has made an edict that every male child should be drowned. And yet, born into death and slavery, he became a son of Pharaoh.
Yes.
He was brought into
So here we have the opposite. From death to life, and then he was ousted into the desert as a nomad for 40 years, and then he came back to Egypt and confronted the Pharaoh, who was probably his brother, as to let go of the consciousness of slaves into freedom. Because human beings should never be slaves.
Absolutely. So
that was it.
He took the matrix on, is what Moses did.
Okay, so what we're talking about then is a metaphor. The Pharaoh is a metaphor for the matrix.
For all humanity. That's why he didn't have a name. He was called Pharaoh.
Right.
Because every generation has its Pharaoh.
Oh, exactly. Gee, that's a very interesting point there. He's Pharaoh or matrix.
Right.
Okay. All right. So the Torah, the stories begin with creation of the universe,
right,
and end with the destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem in 70 Common Era. So how does that affect its relevance, in today's world?
Well, that's a very good question. We all are total of our history. Each one of us has in our DNA our parents, our grandparents, etc., go back into time. So we're not just a single person who's here now. We have a memory bank of all our ancestors and all our history. So that is who we are. So without the history, we're not who we are. So we have a lot of knowledge in us, in our DNA.
Well, okay. So it's in our DNA. Are you also referring to reincarnation? Or
no.
No. Okay.
I'm referring to every generation changes, but we're all facets of the world.
Right.
So as generation progress, our children hold more knowledge than we do because they have more experience. It's like the fruit of the tree. The tree may have the bark and the trunk, but the fruit is the delight, but it contains the tree.
Yes.
It's from the tree.
I got you.
And I also believe that things happen in patterns. So the Lukat, this first set of tablets, was given 3,500 years ago, later destroyed by Moses because the people couldn't absorb the consciousness. And our world for thousands of years has been operating off of, a particular level of consciousness and creating the reality that we all know, feel every day. But, what is so important is this code has risen. It has just risen again, and it's coming forward. It's giving mankind another chance to know, the deepest of secrets and to go deeper into the Creator. Every Hebrew name in the Torah is coded for God. Every name is coded for other people, metaphors as well. But the code within the names for God, why not just have one name for God? There's a reason for that, because there's different aspects of the Creator that come into play at different, periods within itself to create this creation and to evolve and, to move into another Creator, Adam.
Which all makes sense to me, because I'm convinced that the Creator really is such a huge thing, or a mystery, that I'm not even sure we can wrap our imagination fully around it.
We cannot.
Not the source.
Not to that level.
Yeah.
The source, it's impossible. Because,
right.
We work three-dimensional minds, and the source is unfathomable. If anybody ever tries to tell you that they understand it, it's just simply impossible. We live in a dimension of duality. There's other dimensions of duality, but the Creator can only experience its essence when it comes out of the realm of,
everything and nothing,
out of everything and nothing, into a lower and slower vibratory dimension where experience is possible. And through the experience is how knowledge is born. It's how, knowledge lives through fear and love and pain and suffering, male, female, light, dark. So this is the dimension where knowledge can be experienced, and through this dimension, the Creator feels each and every one of us, because we are it.
Yes.
Because it is
kind of like we feel the fingers of our body. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. In other words, the Creator in itself does not experience anything, because it's everything and nothing. The only experience is in matter, where you have loss and pain. If you're in bliss, there's no experience.
There's no friction. There's no challenge.
There's no friction.
Right. So there's so what you don't have there is polarity. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So in order to have polarity, you have to lower the dimension.
You have to slow everything down so the experience can happen in the illusion of time.
Okay, now I'm gonna change the whole direction of this now with this one statement that you made, and I want to find out about who you are, Abraham. And it says the Torah will always match the level of consciousness of those who work to interpret its sacred texts.
Right.
So tell us about your background. What happened for you to bring you to a level of consciousness where you could actually break this code?
I was brought up as a religious Orthodox in a very rabbinical family.
Were you Hasidic or?
No, I was regular Orthodox.
Okay.
Talmud, I went to college and studied the Talmud, the Torah for all my life. But I was also brought up in England, so I used to read a lot of everything. And the questions I had were never answered by many people.
Well, I know that feeling only too well.
And this went on for many years, till I came to a point when I was very depressed, because I couldn't live with no answers. So I went to, I was in Israel at the time, and I prayed for enlightenment, which was not ever given until I let go of everything I ever perceived to be real. And that was the hardest thing to do. And then all of a sudden something happened to me where I changed. And in the realization of the change, the learning that I had was completely the opposite. And I saw the code came at me through the words, the ancient Hebrew text.
Actually jumped off the pages.
Jumped off the pages in some way, but it changed everything. In other words, when you have a painting, you have white light that contains everything, and you think that's the truth. But then when you take out the colors, you realize there's something more there.
So it's kind of like a Blade and Whit drawing where, you know, you see these lines and you can't tell what it is, and then you get a little shift in perception and you see the word Jesus, right?
Whatever.
Whatever the word, right? Yeah, whatever the word.
No, it comes from a perception of understanding which you studied all your life, and then you realize you're in anguish because you know there's no answers, no true answers. You feel right. And then when you're given when your eyes become open, the answers are there. Because it is there. It's like the flip of the coin. The tails is on the other side of the head.
Yes.
You just turn it round.
Yes.
And I think a lot of spiritual people go through this anguish, and then their eyes are open, and they look at the other side of the coin.
Well, that's certainly been my experience.
Right.
I just didn't get the answers at all, and then there was this real transformative period in my life, and a lot of anguish went with it. So I relate to what you're saying there. So, while it wasn't the intent, the Torah really became the foundation for Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, right?
Absolutely.
And what you're saying is those are all misinterpretations of the Torah.
Well, there's two Torahs. There's the first Torah that was abandoned.
Why was it abandoned? Why was that Torah abandoned?
Because when Moses brought down the first set of tablets, the people were not on that level.
Uh-huh.
Now, what does that mean? That if you have too much heat coming to you, tune in the flame, you'll burn up.
Yes.
So unless your consciousness changes to accept this vibratory reality, you'll burn up. So Moses had to break the luchot and go back up another 40 days and 40 nights to bring a second Torah down that was in the level that they wanted to stay at. Mankind had to grow from that point onwards.
And that's what's been absorbed into the world.
Okay.
The world.
Well, one of the things that's a bit problematic in the physicality of all of this is that when you look at the Torah, and it's pretty voluminous. I mean, it's a big book with much content. How does that get into like tablet form without some kind of a caterpillar tractor and some heavy equipment to get it down the hill?
The actual reality is the code's only basically in the 5 books of Moses.
Okay.
All the rest of the interpretations are interpretations based on an ideology.
But even those 5 books, like transferred to stone, are we talking about real tablets, real stone tablets as the story goes?
No, hold on a second. The Ten Commandments was etched in stone. That's the only thing that was etched in stone. The other Torah was written on parchment in black ink.
Okay.
That's the 5 books of Moses. Now, what we've been given is basically the first couple of chapters, or whatever, that talks about creation and all these names of God and creative forces of Adam. They all have code in it, and they have hidden meaning. And it tells us how the formation of creation and why we're here.
Right. And could you sum up in a sentence or two why we're here?
Well, I don't know about sentences or two, but as we said beforehand, if the Creator is in bliss, there's no experience of pain or love, because you have to have this duality in order to experience loss and gain, light and dark, which adds to color. So in order to do this, he had to find it had to create an aspect of itself in another dimension in order to experience loss, pain, life, and death.
So are you? So are you?
It's a hidden aspect of itself as well, coming into light.
Right. So
Hidden aspect of the Creator itself.
So from a physicist viewpoint, are we talking about God as what they refer to as the singularity,
Yes,
where there isn't any polarity, where it's
exactly.
all oneness?
But there's no potential for polarity.
The potential for polarity. I got it. Yeah. Isn't that really kind of like what everything is anyhow, as far as what physics tries to tell us? It's all potential.
Exactly.
Yes.
And for it to be anything real at all, we have to be a part of that.
We are part of it.
Yes.
We actually, what we write in the book is we're creators of our own illusion. We are actually creating this universe.
Creators of our own illusions. Believe me, I've created some real illusions in my lifetime. I know that. A couple of delusions in there too, really.
Okay, it's your delusion, it's your creation.
Absolutely, without question. And I claimed it and loved every minute of it too.
Right. I know.
So mankind began to live through this new idea of God, and the reality is what people believe and they project and become. And
Right.
boy, we're certainly seeing that in what's going on in religious and in the political sphere these days, aren't we?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're really off track, and it's vital that the majority start understanding what's really going on and how we're not powerless. I know millions and millions, probably billions of people feel powerless.
Isn't that the real problem here? Is that idea of powerlessness?
Yeah.
Right, because the churches, the religions say that you don't know God, you need us to see God or go through God, which is completely untrue.
And you're never
God's
taught.
within
Right, you're never
and without.
taught. You're never taught, what you really are, and then we don't teach our children that. And I mean, it's not Abraham and I saying that we've gotten it all wrong. All we have to do is look at the world and what we've created. And what are we fighting over? We're either fighting over oil, wealth, power, or God.
Right.
Because my God is the right God, your God is the wrong God. I'm going to kill you because you don't believe in my God, or you're going to hell because you haven't accepted into your heart what you perceive God to be. And this level of consciousness is insane.
Destroying us.
Oh, it's absolutely destroying us. That's really the major purpose for this spiritual broadcast network was the realization that was a problem, the problem. And,
right.
And
thank you for it. You did a phenomenal job, George. I mean, it's terrible what mankind is leading itself down to complete destruction or a new consciousness.
Right. We have a choice.
Well, there's a lot of talk about a new consciousness, and many people who believe that's what we're really tracking for at this point. I believe that potential is certainly here, and more of us are believing than ever in the past, and that maybe we'll hit a tipping point here. I have another question here. I think, like when I look at what happened for me on a spiritual level, I really had to go to there are people who I understand who get this spiritual metamorphosis through, good things. That's not what happened for me. I had to go really down to a bottom where I was in a lot of pain and a lot of anguish before I was able to really make that transformation. And in that, everything changed for me. Everything changed for me. Now the question is this: do you think that maybe what's going on in the world today is about that we're really trying to reach that worldly bottom where we do a flip and we do make a consciousness change?
Exactly. In fact, the metaphor for Egypt was that they were enslaved to such a point that they hated their slavery and wanted out. It's only when people go down to the lowest level and want out deep inside themselves that the doors open up.
Right.
And that's what's happening today. A door is opening up again. And mark my words, the matrix will be broken.
Yeah, well, I believe that. I sincerely believe that. Well, you talk about one of the statements you make, which was kind of in a way baffling to me, because you say that consciousness created by the Torah has caused the demise of paganism, slavery, human sacrifice, and witchcraft. Paganism exists today, but it's not a darkness from what I understand about paganism.
No.
Nor, and the same with witchcraft. There's a white witchcraft, which is really good. So we're not talking about that kind of thing with that statement.
What we meant was a negative statement. I mean, paganism is negativity of control.
Right. Okay. So what we're in here really is a giant power struggle.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
if you want to call it that, it's really finding ourselves.
Right, but the matrix itself really its only hold on us is through this idea of power. Am I right?
Well, it's hold on us is true. It's power, but the power is the human consciousness.
Right.
Because we value that idea that power and money is what we aim for in our lives, and that's how we describe ourselves. Then we give it power, and then that takes over.
So what you're saying is that we are the matrix.
Exactly. We create the matrix, and then
power
the matrix. What's really unusual is the matrix takes on as a consciousness of its own.
Right.
In other words, it becomes a mass consciousness, and therefore it interferes with human life to keep that consciousness intact. It will stop enlightened people from being enlightened if it could.
It's a consciousness. It takes on. It's a sentient being. It knows it exists. We've given it life.
So in other words, it is us, but it's separate from us.
Yeah, as an individual and a mass consciousness, the mass consciousness becomes an entity of its own right.
Well, it does that. We can just see that in just the vigilante kind of group mentality. It just takes on a whole new,
Right.
Yeah, a whole new life.
But it is powered by human consciousness. So when enough of the people truly understand,
To change their consciousness.
we'll take its power away and create a new matrix
A
through
new,
that level of consciousness.
well, which is exactly what like what we're all, not all of us, but a good many of us are participating. So, is this matrix aware enough to know that there are people who are changing and that its time might be numbered?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And it will try its utmost to stop those people having power.
Yeah. And what methods does it use to put the brakes on that change?
Anything you can ever imagine, it will try.
Yeah, I can believe that. Matter of fact, you just don't, like you said earlier, all you have to do is look around and you can see some of the ideas that are going on these days are just, it's hard to believe.
I know.
And Christianity has become completely dangerous.
Yes.
I mean, it's not only dangerous on a physical level, a mental level or an emotional level. It's dangerous on a physical level. It blames, like the Islam for being dangerous while it's committing worse atrocities more regularly all the time.
Right. But it denies it because it's doing it for God.
Absolutely. I mean, it's difficult for me to get my head around somebody who kills somebody who does abortions because they're doing abortions. I mean, it's like so convoluted. I mean, it's like it's insane.
Yes, it's insane.
And
exactly.
let's just pretend for a moment that these major religions weren't doing any of that.
Right.
Let's say that they were just peaceful. Let's just pretend for a moment. You still have to go back to the core of the matrix that they rose out of. Millions of people were tortured and burned. Lives were destroyed. Immense suffering. I can't even imagine dying the way some of these people were murdered.
Oh, it's a horror.
That is the core of that matrix. No matter how beautiful a matrix looks today or what kind of, however, rosy they want to paint it, it rose out of
Horrible experiences.
an evil consciousness.
Yes.
And so, I always tell everybody, you have to look at the core of the matrix you are empowering, because there's so many things that they can do to trick you, or to make you think that you're doing good, or to make you think that this is the only way you can get to God, and to put fear in you through, beautiful words. You have to go back to the core of every matrix, whether it's religion, the corporation you're working for. It goes on and on. You have to look at the core, because that's what it really is.
So do you think that the matrix is a cyclical thing? And what I'm talking about here is, if you go back, there's talk of, Lemuria and, and these ancient civilizations that don't exist anymore. Did they have their own matrix and destroy themselves, do you think? I mean...
Probably.
Yeah. Which
I'm sure there's different types of Adamic consciousness in creation that's been created, but we are Adamic, and we're here now with our history. So we have to do what we need to do.
And we really have, we have two choices. We can either go on operating the way we've been operating for a couple thousand years, killing each other, killing our planet, or we can choose to become aware to the true reality of who we are and what our Creator is, and this entire human experience, this God human experience, and come together. I mean, the people have to come together, and it's very, very difficult. It sounds easy to say, well, God. The minute you say God, it's something outside of you.
Yes.
I am sounds easy. I am. But when you really start living your life knowing that you are the I am, you are a facet of the I am. There is no God. There is the I am, our Creator, that is manifesting through this dimension, and it's manifesting through you, through me, through Abraham, and so that is the reality of it. So once you grasp that, you start living your life, you look at everything differently.
Well, the big problem for getting people to accept that idea is that it requires the big R. And when it comes to spiritual matters, people don't like the big R, and that requires that we become responsible.
I was glad you were going to say religion. I'm like, this is going against everything religion says.
It really, yes, absolutely. No, but it requires that we become responsible for everything about ourselves.
It absolutely does. We're accountable, we're responsible, our outcome is, there's subconscious levels of operation and there's conscious levels of operation. So, when we were writing the book, I thought about it a lot. Well, how can one know their hidden self? If it's hidden from you, if it's in your subconscious self, how can we know what's really going on within us? And our subconscious self is 90% of who we are. Our conscious mind is 10%. So if there's all this that's hidden from us and we're creating realities, well, how can we know what's really going on? Well, the way you know that is by the relationships you have in your life, events that happen in your life. When you start to become highly aware that what is happening in your outer world is actually a projection and then reflection of what's going on within your 10% conscious mind, 90% subconscious self, then you can start figuring out what is going on in your hidden aspect. So if there's people that continuously keep being angry with you, or you're getting into angry situations, then it's showing you there's something within you that is projecting this anger. So once you understand how creation works and how we maneuver within it, it brings so much clarity. And, yes, there's a lot of pain. I mean, there's a lot of pain on the path to enlightenment. Abraham has gone through tremendous pain. I've gone through tremendous pain. It takes a lot of courage, and you've got to be willing to risk everything to become.
Absolutely.
And so it's not easy for people.
Well, the other aspect of that is that, you're talking about the polarity. people in general are really unwilling to look at and own their own polarity. The fact that we have a light side and a dark side.
Yes, we do.
And in order...
So does God, the Creator.
Pardon me?
So does the Creator.
Everything that happens
Absolutely.
in this dimension it's the I am.
It's all the Creator. The dark side and the dark side.
Well, you see now there's an idea that is really foreign to a lot of people, but I really am with that idea. The idea that God is all white is not a factual idea.
No, it's not.
There's absolutely nothing that exists outside of the Creator, and it is,
It's all the Creator. It's all us.
Right.
And it's all it.
This is Adam's domain. We are the creators of this domain. So how we use the energy that's in this domain is our choice. And again, it comes down to awareness and being responsible. And if something happens to you, you've got to, step back and look within and, try to figure things out. I mean, I can tell you this. It's not meant to be easy for us. It's just, we've got to figure it out.
Well,
Part of the game.
also it makes us stronger. We have to have that.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, in order to get that strength. Listen, we have our hours here are actually 50 minutes, so we're running bumping up against the edge of that. And what I'd like to do, we're going to have you back for sure. Tom will get that all set up with you, because there's a lot more I want to talk with you about this. What's interesting to me is like my resistance to having you on the show. Until and then I just started to look a little bit more, and then Tom had a chance to talk with you, and Tom says, "Hey, we're on the same page," So it's, and we definitely are. So what I'd like you to do is tell people where they can buy your book, give us your website, and how they can contact you, and anything that you would really like to talk about that we missed tonight. Go right ahead.
Okay, well, our book is available in paperback and in all ebook formats. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all the other major book sites. And the book is The Genesis Code, God Has Spoken. And our website is codeofgod.com. That's codeofgod.com. And if you'd like to send us an email, our email is info@genesiscodebook.com.
Great. Listen, I have really enjoyed the two of you. It's a great conversation. We're talking about some pretty heady things that,
Right.
and they deserve, like being broken down more. I really want to, next time we get together, I want to get more into the code and understand that process a bit more with you. And what we'll do is, if you'll remember, send me some talking points next time about things that you really would like to get into, and I'll incorporate those.
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Very much.
Thank you very much for having us on. We greatly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I've had a great night with you, and we'll look forward to talking again.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Good night now.
Good night.
Well, Tom, you're right. They are certainly, we're on the same page without question, and really likable people, weren't they? Yeah, I totally enjoyed the conversation. Very, very intelligent people. Listen, get the book. You will enjoy it. It's just packed with some really, really relevant information to what's going on today. And although it's highly intellectual, it's also really well written and easy to read. So give it a try. Next week, I have a great guest again next week. We're going to be talking about the art of story. I've got the soul of story. So if you've thought about writing before, or you're writing a blog, or you're writing a book, believe me, next week's guest, you're going to like her very, very much. So be sure and come back, same time, same place. And in the meantime, don't forget to accentuate the positive and have a fantastic week.